Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to a special voter education edition of Triad Today. Over the next half hour, you'll get to meet and hear from 5 outstanding congressional candidates, including joint appearances between Ted Budd and Kathy Manning in the 13th District and Mark Walker and Ryan Watts in the 6th District. I'll also be speaking with Councilwoman Dee Dee Adams, who is running against Virginia Fox in the 5th District. But before we get started, here are a few words from Mark Schaefer, CEO of Triad Federal Credit Union.
Education is important at every age and at every grade level. That's why Triad Federal Credit Union works with schools and the community at large to provide financial literacy instruction. We offer financial education grants to help teachers incorporate personal finance into their curriculum. And we partner with local schools so teens and young adults can make better decisions about their finances and exercise financial independence. It is also important for us as citizens to make informed decisions about our state's political contests. That's why we support Triad Today and its commitment to voter education. I'm Mark Schaefer, CEO of Triad Federal Credit Union, and we hope you enjoy this special presentation.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks to Triad for their continued support of Triad Today for over 15 years. I'll be back with Kathy Manning and Ted Budd after this short break. On this special voter education edition of Triad Today, the 13th Congressional District includes the counties of Davidson, Davie, parts of Guilford, Iredell, and Rowan. Republican Ted Budd from Davie County is a first-term incumbent, and his challenger is Democrat Attorney Kathy Manning from Greensboro, and I welcome both of you to being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy's second time here. We had you back in the primary, and congratulations on getting the nomination. Ted's first time, and thank you for being here. Before I get to some issues, and there's a lot we can get to in the 10 minutes, I want to pick at both of you, if you don't mind. And I'm going to start with you, Kathy, and it's about TV ads. You ran a TV ad, and correct me if I'm wrong, and one of them pictured a lady with cancer, and you intimated, you implied, you suggested that Ted didn't care about that woman's condition. That's the feeling I got from the ad. Was that a fair thing to do?
Actually, I disagree with your characterization of the ad.
Okay, go ahead.
I think what the ad shows is that people have difficult health issues and they need to make sure that they can count on health care and that they can count on the fact that Congress is not going to remove protections for people with pre-existing conditions. And I'll tell you, that is one of the biggest issues that we are facing today. I could go on and on about that, but I think you were just trying to pick on me. I thought you were going to pick on me for that, so I'll just say I could talk for hours on that. And the people that I have met that have to make difficult decisions every day on paying for their health care, paying for their prescription drugs, or paying for food, paying their rent, mortgage, that's a tough issue that we need to tackle.
It's tough, and the premiums are out of control. And as an old guy, 100 years old, I know about these things. Ted, you want to react to the criticism I put on her?
Well, absolutely. I think she does bring up an issue about health care. We need more transparency in that. We need, one of the things that was actually false towards me is that I removed protections or voted to remove protections for those with pre-existing conditions. Absolutely not true. When you look at Title I of the ACA or the original Obamacare, that was contained in the AHCA, which I did support. So that does protect and prevents denial of health care for those that have pre-existing conditions.
All right, let me...
So the idea of protecting people with pre-existing conditions, as it was in the Affordable Care Act, is to prohibit insurance companies from either throwing people off their insurance if they have pre-existing conditions or charging them so much money that they couldn't possibly afford their health insurance.
That's right, Ted.
That is a huge issue, and as I've said before, if it's on the menu and you can't afford it, might as well not be on the menu.
That's right, Ted. I mean, the companies just keep getting a free hand because of the rights given back to the states under both of those plans. Actually, Obamacare wasn't that great for that either, but the Republican plan was even worse. And the costs are just astounding. But let me flip this thing, because I criticized Kathy on a thing. I want to criticize you on something. You ran an ad where you said that Kathy wanted to take $30 million of taxpayer money to build a parking garage in downtown Greensboro. Is that really true? Why would you say that in an ad? Reaction.
So what I would say is that the developers said that the city had and the taxpayers had to fund a $30 million parking deck in order for the Manning family in order to be able to build their hotel. So now she's saying that now that she's running for Congress that it's a charity. And if you believe that, I think you would believe that also she wouldn't vote for Nancy Pelosi.
You know what? That ad has been declared completely false. The allegations that you have just made, completely false by PolitiFact. He was taken to task. In fact, The first ad that included those claims has been pulled off of TV by 2 different TV stations. I want to state categorically, what you are talking about were allegations, unsubstantiated allegations in a lawsuit by somebody who was frankly trying to shake down the city for money. There is absolutely no truth to the fact my husband and I have not taken 1 penny of government funding. We are not making any money off of the building of the city's parking lot. The city determined that Greensboro needs more parking. The city determined that they wanted to build a parking lot. That is the city-owned parking lot. And everything about those claims are flat out lies, and he should be ashamed of himself for putting those ads on TV.
All right.
They are a terrible misrepresentation.
All right, she came at you pretty hard on that. Let me give you 15 seconds, Ted, if you want to react.
So I'm used to that, and I would encourage her to take down those things that Politico said that were half-truths from her campaign. I hope she takes those down as well. But clearly, I mean, this is something that is built in order for their hotel to be on there. They haven't built it yet. It's to come. And this comes from a January of 2018. So this year, Greensboro News and Record article. I would encourage those who are viewing to be able to look it up.
You need to read that article more carefully. And by the way, that parking deck is for the city. The hotel was going to be built with its own parking deck, but the city wanted a parking deck that was dramatically larger than what the hotel was going to build. The city asked the hotel to build a parking lot in conjunction with them that would accommodate the city's needs, not just the hotel's needs. The project went back and forth, and right now, the way the project is designed, it is a city parking lot that is being built for the city and will be owned by the city.
All right.
I would agree with her that people should read that article in January of 2018 where she's listed as a scheme participant.
All right.
That is an outrageous allegation. It is false and,
Okay.
and requires a defamation lawsuit to clear my
Well, we're not
name.
going to have any lawsuits right now. We can do that later. And I was going to talk about assault weapons, but thank God we don't have any here on the set. Now, let me just say that there was a poll published recently in The Hill by something called American Barometer. Never heard of this group, but they said 70% of Americans support a single-payer healthcare system. Ted, I want to start with you. Do you support a single-payer healthcare system?
Oh, absolutely not. What we need is more competition and more transportation, more transparency and more competition. If you do that, it will bring prices down. What Obamacare promised was $2,500 reduction in premiums, but instead we had more than a $2,500 increase in premiums. What we don't need is more state-run, government-controlled care. You know, when we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it's interesting that those across the aisle all of a sudden became fiscal conservatives, which we
I know where
are.
you're going, but let me just say, would you get rid of Social Security and Medicare?
Oh, absolutely not. But one of the problems is that you, by spending $32 trillion, which is the cost of a single-payer system over the next 10 years, you're going to lose, you're not going to be able to afford Medicare and Social Security. So that's a $32 trillion cost that the Bernie Sanders types and the Elizabeth Warrens would want to support. So we simply cannot afford that.
All right,
we have to have a market-based system that gives people more options.
Kathy, I'm a Bernie Sanders type, so I don't know if I just got insulted or not, but and there is some discrepancy.
So
not just at Bernie's plan, but also MedicareForAll.org and others dispute that, saying it will be a cost savings. Your reaction?
So I think when it comes to health care, we can all agree on the goal. We need to have more affordable health care that is accessible to everyone, and it is long past time for us to go after the outrageous cost of prescription drugs. I think we can agree that's the goal. I have talked to hundreds of doctors, healthcare providers, hospital administrators over the last 9 months to try to figure out what can we do that is practical, that will give us steps to take to get in the right direction to achieving that goal. And here's what I've learned. Number one, our healthcare delivery system is too fragmented, and there are too many layers, too many different layers taking a slice of that pie, adding to the costs. Number two, we have got to make sure that people are getting the right care from the right provider at the right time. We don't want people waiting until they're so sick that they go to the emergency room where sometimes they can't be cured. And then the third thing is going after the outrageous cost of prescription drugs. And I have to say, I think both parties have failed us. Several administrations have failed to go after the pharmaceutical companies.
Right,
I can go on and on about that, but it sounds like you're ready to go on.
I agree with you on that, but then there'd be the two of us teaming up on Ted.
All right.
Very quickly, Ted, just as a disclaimer, my wife and I have been to your gun shop, your shooting range, had a great experience. I'm a gun owner. However, It makes no sense to me when 70% of Americans want a ban on assault weapons like we had prior to 2004. They want that ban back on there. Do you want it or not, Ted?
We look at a National Institute of Justice survey that goes back and looks at the ban that was released several years ago. It made no statistical difference. Plus, these are used. You know, I heard somebody earlier say that AR stands for assault rifle. It does not. It actually stands for Armalite, which is a design from 1956. Nothing in technology much has changed since the early 1900s. We have a people problem and not a device problem.
Give me 10 seconds, Kathy.
I think it is long past time for us to start taking common sense steps to keeping the country safe. I grew up in a house with a gun. I support the Second Amendment, but I think with rights come responsibilities. We have a responsibility to keep kids and teachers safe in school, people safe in their houses of worship, and there are steps we can take right now to make things safer. We can go after universal background checks. I talk to people who say, well, don't we have universal background checks?
And we're out of time, but thank you. And I wish we had more time because there's so many things to get into. You're both fine people. I wish the ads weren't so contentious, but maybe we'll work that out in the future. Kathy, thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
Ted, good luck.
Thank you, Jim.
And I appreciate that. When we return, we'll meet with 5th District Challenger Dee Dee Adams. Stay with us. Back now on this special voter education edition of Triad Today. The 5th Congressional District includes the counties of Alexander, Allegheny, Ashe, Avery, Forsyth, Stokes, Surrey, Watauga, Wilkes, and Yadkin. The Republican incumbent is Virginia Fox, who declined to participate in this program. Her challenger, though, is Democrat Dee Dee Adams, a member of the Winston-Salem City Council, and she is with us right now. Welcome again. Good to see you.
Thank you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I just want to ask you a few things. I know you're busy and you've got another thing going on here. I guess the first question you get asked all the time is, why did you want to run for Congress?
Because I want to make the world a better place, and I know that seems just you say it because it sounds good, but no, I believe it. Because the way I was brought up is that you help your fellow persons, your neighbors, do what you can to make everybody else's life just as good as yours, lift up the ones who might not have it as good as you, get with other people, figure out what you can do together to make the world a better place. I bought into that, Jim, when I was born, and I've been believing it all my life, and I still do.
I understand. I've been there. And now let me flip it on you, though, for a second. You said what your mission is and why you're running. What makes you qualified to be a congressman?
Well, I've been on the city council for almost 10 years, 3 terms. I've served on numerous nonprofit boards of directors. I've sit on national boards, state boards, worked with a diverse group of people. I have gone to many leadership training and development, organizational training, Leadership North Carolina, Leadership Winston-Salem Institute.
And you know from being on city council, things get a little fiery sometimes there, and you have to deal with it and get along with people, don't you?
They do, but there's always, you can disagree. We can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, it's about respect of person as well.
Yeah, I wish we could do that on the national level. Speaking of which, when you're elected to Congress, how will you feel about term limits when you're sitting up there enjoying your first term and somebody says, Dee Dee, you can be in here for 30 years?
No, not me. No, I believe in term limits. I believe that we should have that because when we don't, we get generational perspectives that are not congruent to the times that we're living in, and I think that's what we have now. I believe that the president can only serve 2 terms, which is 8 years. Senate should serve 2 terms, 12 years. Congress people should only serve 5 terms, 10 years. Go home, bring it, and it's graduated, so you'll always get a different perspective.
You and I talked one time off camera. You sort of have to worry about somebody who wants to be up there forever, don't you?
You do.
No, I'm not mentioning any names.
But you do.
Now, do you support a Medicare for all system in one form or another, so that it's single payer?
Yes, I do. I think everybody has their own choice that they want. But when you look at all of the choices and options that's out there, they all sound pretty good. I believe we could take things from each one, single payer, private pay, Medicare, Medicaid, all of it, and we could come to something that works for all of us that makes it affordable where we all can have it. I think when you get the subject matter experts in the room, the customers like you and I get our opinion, doctors, practitioners, insurance pharmaceutical, business people, employers. I know we can come up with something better because we already have something that we can launch as a prototype, and that was Affordable Care Act.
Right.
We never had that before, so now we, like a customer brand, we can look at what works, what don't, make it better, tweak it.
Before time runs out, what do you think about assault weapons? Should we go back to banning them like we did before 2004 when George Bush lifted the ban?
I think we should ban them. When you can go to a concert, a fair, football games, parks, and everywhere else downtown, and somebody has a permit, if not, even not there to carry, and they can wipe out 30, 40, 100 people
Too
in
much.
2 or 3 minutes.
Too much.
It's too much.
Up on screen, DeeDeeAdamsForCongress.com. I hope everybody will check that out. Thank you for being here on the show, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right. When we come back, Congressman Mark Walker and Challenger Ryan Watts will make their first televised joint appearance here on Triad Today. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this special voter education edition of Triad Today. The 6th Congressional District is comprised of Alamance, Caswell, Chatham, parts of Guilford, Lee, Randolph, and Rockingham counties. Republican Mark Walker is a second-term incumbent from Guilford County, and his challenger is Democrat Ryan Watts from Burlington. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us.
It's always a privilege.
Thank you.
First question is going to go to Ryan, and then we'll get Mark's take on this. Recent poll says over 70% of Americans favor a Medicare for all system, a single-payer system. Ryan, your thoughts?
I think that we need to make sure that every single American has health care. Medicare has proven to be the most efficient delivery of health care in America. It operates at 8% of costs, as opposed to private insurers that operate at 20% of costs. That's why I support Medicare as a public option to create some competition in our healthcare system.
It's a public option. All right, Mark, let's weigh in.
Yeah, the public option idea, it sounds good on paper, but you're talking about $32 trillion. That is a huge factor. How do you pay for it? It almost doubles our budget over the next 10 years. Recently, we passed the AHCA, which did cover for pre-existing conditions by allowing the government to subsidize. Some of our conservative friends struggle with that, and I get it, but allows us to pool those that have pre-existing conditions to lower the premiums across the board. That's the path I think that we're on, that overhauls it long term. That's the path that we're going to stay on.
Well, I mean, I'm sure both of you realize, though, that not just Bernie Sanders, but the Medicare.org folks and some other groups have figured this out, and over I think it's a 10-year period or something, it's going to be a savings. You're just saying in the short term you don't like it.
Short term, listen, there's a reason that over half the Democrats in Congress do not want to go with a single payer. They understand the cost and what it would do to the tax base.
I mean, I think it's actually a tax savings over the course of time. Right now, we've got too many Americans paying $500, $600, $1,000, especially now that the president has said that we're not going to protect people and keep premiums low on people with pre-existing conditions. That's exactly why this election is so important. We've got to have health care for everybody.
All right, now in his final year as president, Barack Obama allowed 85,000 refugees into our country. Donald Trump said for next year, President Trump said for next year, we're going to cut that to 30,000. Good idea or bad idea? I'm going to start with Mark on this one.
Sure. I want to make sure who we're bringing into our country. As a former pastor, I've worked in the refugee camps even before I became served in Congress. Right now, we take in 1 million legal immigrants per year. We have about 35 to 36 million legal immigrants. There's a system that's set up, and most people with common sense understand that there's a law and order. It's not right to put people ahead of those who've been working here for 6 or 7 years trying to do it the right way. So just to have some kind of open border mindset, we're a lot of discussion on this caravan and other things that we're seeing right now. Let's follow the laws that we've set up. We have a pathway to do that, and let's follow them.
But there's a difference. I'll let Ryan weigh on this in a second, but there's a difference between illegal immigrants per se and people who say, I want to seek asylum. They're trying to get in the right way, but the fact is we still can't handle the numbers, right?
Not the fact. We have hundreds of thousands waiting in line already. So we want to make sure. The other thing is the State Department told us during the Barack administration they were properly vetting. Sitting down with the defense minister of Jordan, who were taking over 1 million in, he said, Mark, the number one thing that we can't do is we can't properly vet where some of these refugees are coming from.
Right.
I think we absolutely must vet the people coming into this country. I think it's disingenuous to argue that Democrats or even me as a candidate want open borders. But my grandfather was a pastor. The thing he talked all the time to me about was we must empathize. We must demonstrate our humanity. I was raised to believe that Americans believe that we should be the shining beacon of light. We should lead with example, and that means leading with empathy. And so there's a balance that needs to be struck that we don't have right now.
And Jim, I've done more than talk about the empathy. I've been in these refugee camps. I've served with these people. I've been on the mission trip, so it's not just a political statement for me.
No, but you and Ryan both have to admit, I'm sort of going to pick at both of you at the same time, that in the old days, I'm 100 years old, in the old days, churches would frequently sponsor immigrants, bring them in, help them assimilate, and still do. but we're lacking a lot of that now. And then we have this overflow we can't handle. Oh, we'll move on to something else. We used to have an assault weapons ban until George Bush repealed it in 2004. The question is, should we go back? Should we reinstate it, given all the mass murders, school shootings, theater shootings, church shootings that we've had? And I'll start with Ryan on this one.
This is exactly why I'm running for Congress. Not just this particular issue, but this mindset that when we have a problem, we must be proactive in working towards solutions. That's what I do around the country working with businesses. So when there's a problem, we don't always have to point fingers and say who's to blame, but we do have to be willing to take steps towards a solution. We must immediately reallow the CDC to study this issue, to study the gun violence issue, and that also means we need to keep our schools safe, have school resource officers in the schools, but we need to keep guns out of the wrong people's hands.
Congressman.
I have no problem making sure that we're doing the proper background checks on people that are wanting to purchase any kind of firearm. However, I want to make sure that we draw the line that we do not target law-abiding citizens. This North Carolina is a big Second Amendment state, as we all know.
But how many law-abiding, excuse me, Congressman, how many law-abiding citizens need an automatic weapon with the right magazines and tricks to it that can fire 500 rounds a minute?
I'm against certainly bump stocks. I'm also against automatic weapons, which has been banned for the last 20-something years. I don't believe there's any place for that because of the damage that can be done. But again, I want to make sure that these are common sense gun laws and we're not overreaching the people's privacy or infringing on their Second Amendment.
Right.
I think we also need to look at high-capacity magazines. I think that exactly what you're talking about, the weapons of war, the things we've seen. The AR-15s, I know, aren't a fully automatic weapon, but AR literally stands for assault rifle, and would classify as a weapon of war. So I agree, we don't want to infringe on people's rights. I own guns. I'm not trying to take guns away from me or my family or from anyone else's family, but let's be smart.
Our office has closed over 800 veterans cases. I've talked to many of those. They don't use AR-15s in war.
No, but I have to worry about a guy who says, I'm going squirrel hunting with my 500 round per minute.
Absolutely, common sense.
Should we have term limits? And now this might be, you might not want to talk about this, Congressman, because you've been here for 2 terms, and Ryan might say, I think they should only have 2 terms and out. But let me start with you, Congressman. Should we have some kind of term limits on congressmen like we do president?
Absolutely. We put it in writing before we ever ran. I've learned this, Congress is not going to self-impose term limits on themselves, so have somebody who's willing to promise and put it in writing. We felt like 6 terms in the House side was the most that any member needs to serve. The reason why is the special interest over time can have an undue influence. By rotating the people in and out, good people in and out, you have a better chance of staying focused on the job that you promised to do and serve the people to begin with.
Right.
Well, as you probably know, special interests have no problem getting around members of Congress and buying and paying for votes. You can look at our FEC filings and find we haven't taken a dime of special interest money, and we won't at any point in Congress. I'm not sure that's the same on the other side of this debate here. But I will say this, term limits are a must. In fact, I agree, if we're going to agree on this, that is exactly where I would draw the line on term limits, is a 6-term limit.
Go ahead, Mark. I think you want to react to who you took money from. Or?
No, listen, our support, we have close to 1,000 people who've contributed to our campaign. In 2016 election, we were voted in by 206,000 people. There's only 148,000 Republicans in this district. We count on a broad base of support, tens of thousands of both Democrats and unaffiliated. We hope to have that opportunity again.
Ryan, if you were elected, would you want some kind of a law passed where it says if you have a big donor and the big donor says, Ryan, will you vote for my bill? You know, I gave you this $50,000. Shouldn't you have to recuse yourself from voting on that? Because there's no law that says that. There are other conflict of interest laws in Congress, but not one like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't even stop there. I totally agree with that proposal. I also don't believe that members of Congress should be sitting on for-profit boards and taking extra money on the side from those board positions. I think that if you're taking money from the NRA and you're taking money from health insurance companies, your vote is already bought and paid for. Again, we'll never take a dime of that money because I want the people to know that I'm fighting for them.
Jim, let me say real quick, he has accused me on several occasions to serving on for-profit boards and making money on the side.
Just in general, not about you.
No, he's put my name on it. I serve on no for-profit board. I make no additional monies outside of what the pay is for the United States Congress.
All right, how much time do we have, Brian? I don't want to go over on this. One minute, very quickly. I want to give each of you 30 seconds just to tell me, what do you say to independent voters who maybe are undecided right now? Ryan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I've worked in 30 states. I've retrained thousands of American workers who otherwise would have been laid off because of technology implementations. We've got Congress that is stagnant. We don't have people in Washington who understand how the modern economy is changing. I'm a problem solver, I'm a solution creator, and that's what they can count on, someone who comes from a bipartisan family and someone who will work in a bipartisan way.
They're already trusting us with their support. As I mentioned the numbers, we work across the aisle. We have a lot of bipartisan support. The 44 bills that I sponsored or co-sponsored, the majority had Democrat support. Our work with HBCUs this coming Monday, I'll be the keynote, one of the award passing on for the Thurgood Marshall College Foundation. We have a lot of support across our minorities, unaffiliated and Democrat. We built the trust, and we're going to continue to do that.
All right, I want to put something up on screen, both websites for these fine gentlemen, watchforcongress.com. I hope you will go to that and read about it for our radio listening audience. Again, that's watchforcongress.com, and walker4nc.com. Now, of course, Congressman Walker has a congressional website you can go to track issues and see what's going on, but they keep the politics separate. They actually do this. Walker4nc.com is the campaign thing. Gentlemen, two fine gentlemen, I appreciate it, and I will say on Mark's behalf, I think, and Ryan, that I appreciate you guys not getting down in the mud too much on this campaign like some other folks have.
Never read a negative ad.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll be right back with some closing thoughts after this. Back now on this special voter education edition of Triad Today, and I want to thank Mark Schaefer and True Lion Federal Credit Union for their support. I also want to thank Dee Dee Adams, Ted Budd, Kathy Manning, Ryan Watson, Mark Walker for their participation. I urge you to visit their respective websites for more information, and please remember to vote on November 6th. For all of us here on Triad Today, I'm Jim Long.